Hello and welcome. Today we've got John Ashton, who's the Managing Director of the Dent Academy. And John outlines the very amazing technology of paintless dent repair.
This is a huge opportunity in the market for dealers to get in and make some additional revenue streams for their workshops. So let's jump into it.
With 30 years experience in auto logistics and state-of-the-art locations in 5 major Australian cities, Precar Fleet Services are a premier all-in-one solutions provider for commercial vehicle fleet operators, leasing companies and original equipment manufacturers. Please visit precar.com.au and click on the link to Fleet Services.
John, thanks very much for joining us today. Great to have you on the show. To kick things off, can you tell us about your journey with the Dent Academy and why you set it up and what sort of pain points were you trying to cover in the industry?
Yeah, so I started it a few years ago in 2015, but I started it in a mirror with a hail company or a company that does that sort of repair, which is paintless dent removal. But that kind of morphed when I spent a few years traveling around the world chasing the hailstorms. And being such a niche market, niche industry, it's unrecognized. The skill set was not really there. It was nowhere. It's all brought up from a backyard training perspective. So I had a mindset like if I was going to start a business, one thing we really need to get good at is the skill set. So we kind of went into the market of starting the academy because we knew we needed to get the best skill set to be successful in the industry. The whole industry is so brought up from a backyard perspective in relation to PDR that it's still today not where it needs to be. It's really low in the skill set standard, so to speak.
Sorry, John, just to jump in there, can you maybe explain what is PDR? Because not everyone knows what the terminology is.
Yeah, so PDR is the terminology of what PDR stands for, paintless dent removal. And I guess in a simple terms of it's predominantly used obviously in hail where you get your dents and it gets damaged and where you massage the dents out without requiring any paintwork. So it's a bit of like a profession or a mastery of like a craft of massaging the dent without getting any paintwork required, damaging the paintwork and keeping everything intact. And that goes from all parts of the car, your hood, your bonnet, your roof, your cam rails, your sides of the car. And it's probably becoming more of the preferred repair because it's such a cost-effective and efficient way of repairing a car nowadays in comparison to painting a car, which in comparison would have to be maybe 3 to 4 weeks for a full car to get repaired, where paintless dent removal can now turn a car around in maybe half a day to a day, depending on the skill set of a technician.
So where did it all come from? Because I'm an old school guy, did the panel beating course at TAFE many moons ago. And, we were taught about, you got to break the paint, you got to get the hammer and the dolly, stretch the metal, get it to be flat again, metal file it, put etch primer, high fill, and then sand it back, and then get the paint to hopefully match in and probably paint the whole guard instead of just the one piece, etc. Where did all this come from, and what's the background of it?
It's interesting. I don't think anyone's really put the nail on the head. It's rumours, so to speak. But there's a rumour that I've questioned and asked a few people that it started in, so don't quote me on it, it started in Mercedes in Germany, from my understanding, where they had an imperfection on a production line of a car where it had a dent in it. And I think they must have worked out that they could create the tool, a real basic tool, because it was in obviously one spot on every single car. And I think from memory it was on a door. And I think they generated the tools, did some basic training, and they trained someone up to push and repair the car on the factory line rather than getting the whole thing redone in relation to that door getting maybe replaced or repainted. So the rumor has, I think from memory, it morphed from that, and I think that kind of just expanded. Yeah, just expanded. From my understanding, I think it's only 30 to 40 years old, the industry. But probably in the last 10 years, it's only really become a little bit more mature in relation to insurance companies really taken it on board as being a main repair method and getting bigger in on a global scale, like with the USA, Europe, and Australia.
So what's involved? Is it a matter of taking door trims off and pushing dents out? And are there special tools involved? What's the process?
The traditional way, where it's funny where it's coming now to where it was. Traditionally, everything was about maneuvering the metal from underneath with special tools. Now, you look online, there's 1,000,001 different tools nowadays, because it's all reaching in all the different components and areas of a car, navigating around the different bracework and structure. So there's an endless amount of tools in relation to preference and accessibility to all the new cars nowadays. Initially, everything was done from underneath the car, massaging it all up. Now, when you look at today's environment of the paintless dent removal, it's now kind of nearly coming on par. Like, let's say if you go 50-50, 50% of the repair is probably done underneath. The other 50% is done on the outside of the car. So we've got like now what we call hot glue. It's literally like your arts and craft glue that you use. It's a bit different style, but like different types of glue, but it's that hot glue style and you got your little glue tabs and these little different shapes that we can now successfully glue these on the outside on top of the paintwork and start pulling them up and pulling the dents out and massaging them down from a high to 100% rather than pushing it all the way up from underneath to 100%. It's the same logic, but you're just working with glue pulling, and that's all done without damaging the paintwork. Obviously, when there's poor paintwork, you end up having to sometimes pull paint off. And then probably in the most recent one, now they're starting to use cold glue, which is like not even hot glue, and they're pulling it up from cold glue, which is a fairly new technology on top of it again, which is only probably in the last couple of years. When you look at it, it's such a finesse of massaging it from underneath or from on the top of the panel using an LED light, and it all comes down from reading an LED light in relation to the contrast to your bright and dark shadows, so you can literally pinpoint within a millimeter of what the imperfection of where you need to focus on. It is quite interesting when you break it down.
So when I think back to my training many years ago, traditional repairs, so a dent usually means the metal is stretched, and then it was about shrinking the metal or getting the shape back to something similar to what it needed to be. How does that deal with the shrinking of the stretched metal? How does that all work?
We got the terminology stretch dent and PDR, but what we see as stretch dent is probably maybe, or let's say 20% of the actual dents are stretched. Most of them are just dents and just change the shape of the panel. And what tends to happen is kind of like when you drop something in a water and you get the ripples and the dispersion. That's actually what's happening on a really minute level on steel when you hit anything on a panel, because it's all got, depending on where it is, but it's all got tension. And so what tends to happen, you put an impact and it disperses the metal. The way you got to do it is you end up going to repair that and push that out, but you've also got to kind of build the strength back into the metal so it doesn't shrink, or it puts the strength back into it. If you don't do that correctly, you'll actually physically stretch it, but it isn't actually stretched, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
Do you just do hail damage, or do you do other types of dents too? Or do you just specialize in hail damage?
I've probably most of my career has been in hail damage, but with doing the Dent Academy and with training, you kind of explore and find your limits in all the different areas when you're in that environment. So I've done all heaps of the big dents and all the big stuff, and find out the limit of it's where you start exploring with how the metal moves, the tensions and the structural parts of the metal with your body lines and so forth. So yeah, I've moved into all that space, but most of my physical time when I was in the career was all hail damage. But perfect example, I won't say anything of the names or who we're associated with, but we just got a contract to work with an insurance company to implement this as a new repair model, and we're doing a 12-month trial to work out how we can best utilize this method of repair to save on parts and panel costs within the automotive industry with the repair side. And it's going to get to a point where it comes to a professional like that we've trained up within the Dent Academy or one of our staff, that we can start to make the first call what's possible, and then it goes back to traditional repairs. It's quite funny. It's like we've done that in the hail industry where everything's now diverted to a hail specialist. We determine what's possible, then it goes to traditional. Now it's coming into the what you call business as usual claims, like your mums and dads smash bumps and everything. It's now going to be starting to utilize that sort of skill set and making that determination. Then it goes into traditional repairs. So it's definitely what we do as well.
So I'm guessing like hail is one thing, obviously from a bonnet, roof line and boot lid. But then there's the door panels, which is the shopping centre, open the doors, the shopping trolley bashing into the doors, those little annoying dents along the sides of cars because we don't have protector strips anymore. It's that nice flush looking side panels that we like, but car doors tend to open out onto those. And they're the annoying ones that, for example, when it comes to renter cars and say used cars on dealership lots, or if someone's selling their car, they're the ones that are going to impact you financially if you need to get them repaired, or they're going to compromise the car, or from an appearance perspective. So paintless dent repair works well for those applications, I dare say.
Yeah, 100%. Like especially with, this is where we kind of morphed into that, and how we got the vision for CNT scanner and working in with the dealerships, and I guess mastering and really getting a nail in for the training and getting really good at that in relation to hail and pushing thousands of dents. And that's where we've seen like this whole concept of how can we leverage this training and this specialty and the skill set so we can start putting this through your dealership, so we can start providing that service for your door dings and the small dents and throughout the car, because they're the ones that everyone sees and they see on the car, especially when you're a car person. You see it once. You never miss that dent.
You look at it every day.
Yeah.
You'll probably find that's your big profit opportunities, those little dents. Because if a car's covered in hail dents, you're going to have an insurance company has negotiated some sort of deal, so the margin will be very tight to do 200 or 100 hail dents. But if it's one little dent on the car and it's done in the dealership and you can repair it, that's value to the customer and it's value to the dealer because he can make a nice margin on it.
Yeah, and sometimes the customer doesn't see them because it can be quite small or in a difficult spot. And I said this to Jack all the time, and it's going to take good times for it to start changing that shift for the customer. But you highlight that to the customer with our technology. They might say no and go, oh, no, I don't remember seeing it, or I'm not interested. But now they know about it. They're going to pick their car up. They might drive it around for the next few months or whatever before the next service, but they're going to see that dent every day of the week now.
Yeah, exactly.
A good chance the next time he comes in, they're going to get all the dents done without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing that the benefits of paintless dent repair, because going back to the old days of overspray and painting a car, it was always seen to be, it'll never be as good as new.
Yeah.
So, you've, and often when you say selling a car, people will look, the valuers or the person buying a car will look for overspray around door hinges and just different colours, or bolts that are painted that are not supposed to be painted because the panel's been removed. So this process eliminates all of that. So the car still maintains its original shape and form and paintwork without the need to be painted and the risks of say the panel fading at a different rate to the rest of the car. So there's some significant benefits in the whole process of paintless dent repair.
Yeah, 100%. Like especially if someone who knows what they're looking for, when they buy a car, the first thing they look for is the orange peel of a car. You can never get a factory orange peel once from like a panel shop or after the factory. It's virtually impossible. So And then as soon as you see a car without the factory orange peel, it kind of throws a big spanner in the works because you just don't know the depth of the condition of that car or what's underneath. So yeah, when we push, especially when you're working with the PDR lights, we can push to 100% of the orange peel and get it back to, you'll never know that it's been there. And we've done projects with Volvo in Ghent in Europe, BMW factory in Europe, and GM plant in America, and we get these things back to 100%. They're back to normal again. You'd never pick it. So yeah, it's a massive. That's like a one piece of it where you're like, oh yeah, that's a massive positive. But the cool thing is that we can get so much done in such a short period of time with all those benefits. Like you'll get your brand new car through the dealership, it gets scanned, it could have 5 dents on it, but we'll still get that done within less than an hour. And it's back to factory condition.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Amazing, absolutely.
And do you just deal on metals because your compounds on your bumpers and that are different? And do you do damage repair on bumpers?
Yeah, so bumpers not necessarily. Like I have done a little bit when you get someone, and it's quite interesting. As we start moving into some of these newer models, the plastic's actually getting thinner and they're actually getting more affected by hail. But traditionally, you will never really get dents from a small hail or anything, or hail on plastic. Normally it just bounces and reforms back into its traditional shape. But now with I think it's like the OEM saving costs, everything's made really thin, light and competitive, but you are actually pushing. But I wouldn't say it's at a level that you could commercially advertise and offer it. You just do it sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and it's a bit of a different process. So I wouldn't say it's traditionally a way of that repairing it, but people do use that method a little bit in it. But most of it's just on steel, because steel's got a memory and you kind of can mold and maneuver steel and aluminium, obviously. Aluminium's a bit of a different ball game, but it's still very similar characteristics.
Now, John, how long do your courses go for? Now, and because a couple of questions here. Do you need experience before you do the course? And how long do they go for? And what sort of career opportunities are there for people who want to go down this path of paintless dent repair?
We've actually now, we've developed a few different options, just trying to cater for the different personnel coming in, because you get some of the people that just live and breathe and dream of chasing storms and wanting to push dents as a full-time career. Those kind of people have done all their homework and they just want to jump all in and do the biggest and greatest course, which that is the 4 to 6 weeks. And then you get the new people that come in that obviously work around cars, like the idea and it sounds cool, but don't want to make a full commitment of 4 to 6 weeks full time and make the full transition. So we've broken it down into an online piece and got all the framework structured, delivered online on an LMS. And that's kind of delivered at your own pace across 2 to 3 weeks, which is like a shortened version. And then we've got a smaller version, which is 2 weeks in person as well. So we've got like the big one, 4 to 6 weeks in-house, two weeks in-house, and then there's the online modules that they at their own pace. And the cool thing is we've developed an online piece where we've built all these little panel stands, and we've done all our homework and worked out what metal we need to work with in relation to just metal steel from the metal factory, where we can order all these panels, cut them up, send them away to the panel shops, get them painted. We put all the necessary dents in them. We send them the little panel stand so that they can bolt these little panels on with the light and the tools, and they can do everything at home and work and get really familiar with what it's like to work with the metal, push the dents out without putting too much investment in it, to know if they've got the patience and the drive to want to do this as a career before they do any big courses.
Right.
That's fascinating. I think that's really amazing how you've planned that, because that really gets you. You're either then going to jump in completely, or you're going to say, no, that's too hard, and walk away from it.
So you physically send them a panel that's painted with dents in it, and at home via the LMS they can learn to push the dents out.
Yeah, 100%. We exactly send them 10 panels, there's about 3 or 4 that are actually got specific dents, different size. So we kind of reference that, and they're all numbered on the panels in relation to the LMS tutorials on which ones to use. They got some blank ones. We teach them with the tools how to make the necessary dents. And yeah, we send all that out and they go through all the modules. So it's like anyone would think and listen to this before I said this would be like, how the hell are you going to learn PDR online on an LMS?
I was thinking that. I was actually thinking that. I was actually thinking that. Now you're answering it.
Yeah. And we actually built these little, it's like made out of little box steel, a little panel, precisely drilled all the holes that suit the panel, the steel panel. And it bolts on. It's got like a little leverage bar just underneath it. And we got a tutorial how you set up the panel stand, how you set up the tools and the light so you can see it. And yeah, we built the whole LMS to work around that structure of using the panel stand. So we can send that out in a little tiny box about this big. It all fits in, send it out. Someone can do that. And I can stand 100%. I could send that out within a couple of weeks. I could have someone, or 1 week, you could have someone pushing a dent effectively on a car, 100%.
That's phenomenal. And that's theirs to keep. So they get the tools,
yeah,
they get the panels, and they get the light.
Yeah. So they actually pay for the panel stand, and then they have the option if when they're done and they want to progress, if they send the panel stand back, we actually give them money back for the panel stand, and we can reuse it for the next student. So it is a pretty cool little model that we created in relation to that. And that all kind of stemmed from like, how can we scale and provide the level of service and training on a bigger scale so we can offer the service with our scanning technology within the market in multiple parts of the world. Now we've tested and trialed it. It's in a perfect position now in relation to producing students.
Can you test those students at the end of do the online course for 2 weeks? Can you certify them and test them and say, okay, yes, you passed, and here's a certificate of approval?
Yeah, we don't guarantee a certification because we don't know. They have to come in and come into our office. But we actually have like a scheduled every 3 months open day. And this is where we get new students come in that want to get involved and learn a bit more. But we also bring all the past students to give them ability to come in and do a bit of like practice and get onto the panels, do a bit of pushing, and then we can get to see how they're progressing. And then they have the option to come in for a full examination to get certified at that base level, which is like the dents and dings certification, not the hail, so to speak.
And then the full-time course, where's that? Is it held in Brisbane, and where do you get students from? Where do they come from for your course?
It's interesting. We get students from all over. A good percentage of them come from the market because they're making that, and it's quite a big investment to jump in. 1, to take off time 4 to 6 weeks, and 2, you got to pay for that whole course because it's not endorsed or anything. But most of them would come from the automotive industry, and specifically maybe 50, 60% of them probably come from the panel beating industry, where they've obviously witnessed people coming in their environment, doing this art and craft, like this special skill and work in their environment. And I guess when you compare it to painting and panel, it's nice and clean, and the reward is high in relation to satisfaction of getting the job done and the remuneration. So good portion is probably automotive, like panel beating, the panel beaters and painters, but we also get a lot of other people. I've had some people fly all the way from Korea. I've never spoken to them. They've inquired and they just rocked up on the day. Had a Korean guy just rock up, flew in, did the course, and then went home. And yeah, he just word of mouth myself, but people from all over, from corporate, not even in the automotive background, and they're still just as successful as some of the people that come from the panel beating background.
And which countries mainly, John?
Obviously Australia, because that's where we're based, and our reputation is quite strong in Australia. But after bringing several teams to America, Europe, most of our team, or 90% of our team is trained in-house through the Dent Academy. Our reputation on a global level is actually starting to grow, especially within the last 3 to 5 years. So we are getting a lot more people coming in from overseas and referred to come in. So this is where that online piece that we've created is the perfect pathway to come into the bigger course and get an experience of what it's like to come through structured training and really detailed training.
Because you could actually even set yourself up in a van at a shopping centre, and people coming in and parking their cars, you could repair dents while they're doing their shopping. Because if you can do 4 or 5 dents in an hour, that's so easy to do.
Like you get we call them door dingers, like door ding technicians, or like route technicians. The most common one is your route door ding technicians, and then the other one is your hail techs. You call them hail techs kind of thing. Those people specialize in going around to the dealerships and having their regular customers, and they go around and just do all these little door dings, and they just follow that kind of routine and do that like shopping centers and so forth. And then you got the hail techs where they work in tents for probably 3 to 6 months, and then they tend to take possibly 3 months off because they just do a lot of work in a short period of time, make their reward and remuneration like 12 months worth in 6 months.
That's incredible. I'm still mind-boggled by the whole idea of the concept of this. I'm thinking, you got to drop hood linings, you got to push dents up. So I'm thinking of all the clips that you break when you pull the hood lining down and all this sort of stuff. So, oh yes, but then now there's the external. You pull the dent out. It's incredible technology. And as far as the return, so that basically someone could be a student, enroll in your course, and they could be up and running with their own business pretty much within 6 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. You get all the different people because it's interesting dealing with the training on this level because it's not like any sort of training where most training you kind of got a specific process, and anyone, if they just follow that process, they're going to get that outcome. This kind of detailed training where you're working, the most challenging part is when you're working underneath the panel and you're observing the top of the panel, you're working in an area what you call like an unknown because you're not physically in control. You're kind of navigating a space that you don't really have 100% reassurance around, especially in the early stages. So when you're working with all the different characteristics and different type of people, they tend to work at different speeds and go a bit, progress through it a bit different pace. But we get some people go, I have one of the most recent students. He works in a panel shop. He got time off. He did the course for 4 weeks, went straight back to his panel shop, and they had a couple of hail cars, and he was completing them. And he more without a doubt would have probably paid his course back in maybe 2 months. And then he's running his own business, and it's all cleared. Hasn't got a debt or anything over him. He's away, and he went straight into it. There wasn't a learning phase of him trying to work it out for 6 months. He got everything he needed, grasped it, and just went straight into the market and was successful in doing it. He actually was doing the quality of what you'd expect from a 4 to 5 year technician. And
the after course support. So say they want to get advice on a certain car or a certain dent or a certain situation. What happens afterwards? They've completed the course. Is there a hotline or is there a chat function that they can communicate with you guys to say, okay, I've come up against this sort of situation. What do you recommend that I do? Yeah, we actually call it the word for super sessions, but most of the time they actually have the direct contact with the facilitator, whether it's myself or one of the facilitators in the company, and they just send them text messages. They normally have a pretty good relationship after working with them for 4 weeks anyway, and they're all on good chatting terms, and they either will generally send us a picture and then we'll navigate and work and give them guidance around that, because that's probably the one gap that we can't provide in the training is when you work around thousands of cars and all the different models, it's hard to train that level of experience on how you approach all the different cars. It's just
once you work with a good portion of them, you start to understand how they're manufactured behind the panel in relation to bracework, the glue, and the access. But that's generally what we fill in with the super sessions after the course. We say it's like 8 to 10 super sessions after the course, but to be honest, we got a good relationship. They've probably called us a million times. Like we just help them all the way through because it's their success is our success, so to speak.
So they're very much not on their own. Once they've done the course, it's not sort of you're on your own, good luck. Because the next question I was going to ask is around the tooling. Because I'm guessing there's lots of special different, back in the old days, it was a hammer and dolly, a spoon, and these sorts of things that you'd use to maneuver panels, etc. Where do they get the special tools from, and what advice do you provide on that?
It's funny you say that spoon. Back in the day, there was a spoon in the toolkit in relation to PDR, but it's a bit more advanced now. But there is actually, surprisingly, being such a small and niche market, there is several different tool companies now, predominantly in America and Europe. There's none really in Australia. Everything's resaled in Australia from Europe and America. But we provide all the kits with the courses, but we also provide the option that they can just pay and bring their own tools. And we give them a standard list that they must have. Go, this is what you need to complete the course as a basic kit. And then we also have that specific basic kit that they can purchase, or we give them an advanced kit option where if they want to go all out and really hit the market, like if you want to get ready to go in and transition straight into the industry after the course, you get the advanced kit, so you're locked and ready. So we've got all that list. They range from like a 30-piece toolkit from all the different little wires, hammers, PDR lights, and your glue tabs and your glue to like 70 to 80-piece toolkit.
John, roughly how much does a toolkit cost?
Basic toolkit, you'd be looking around maybe the $3,000 to $4,000, and then your advanced kit, you'll be looking around the $7,000 to $8,000.
So it's not a huge investment if you think to set up a business. Any other business would cost you, you'll probably need a van or something to go around it, but the basic toolkit is not scary, for the amount you can recover afterwards.
If you've seen what some of especially the hail technicians that become really good at what they do and really efficient, because you get paid per car and you get a percentage of it. So that's kind of the model in relation to hail. Because it's seasonal, you can't afford to pay someone all year round, and then if there's no storm, you're not going to make any money. So the model in relation for hail, and it's the same, it's very similar for the route and the dent dording technicians, but it's just on a different scale and a smaller volume. But the amount of money that you can generate from just purchasing and investing, let's say 4-week course, $7,000 to $8,000 of tools, I don't think there's many businesses out there that you can actually invest and get that return without the headaches that you end up having when buying a business.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
All that sort of stuff. You can actually reset and go, and your return and investment and your profit margin is like really competitive or really good compared to a business.
From my perspective, I'm flabbergasted. So let's use round figures for say $10,000, or say $20,000.
Yeah,
you could be up and running with a vehicle, because I suppose you even use a small wagon or a hatch, because I'm guessing the tools aren't that big.
Yeah, like I can fit them in a small golf hatch, fold the seats down, and you can get a full big kit in there, no problem.
So you really don't even need a van. So you could get a small hatch, kit it out with tooling for say $20,000. You could be up and running, driving around to dealerships, used car yards, rental car companies, auction houses, private individuals. You could be repairing dents, up and running with a $20,000 investment within 6 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. And especially when you look at with the partnership so we've kind of got like a formal partnership with the Dent Academy and CNT Scanner and provide the certification now. So we can almost guarantee now that like you make your investment, you buy this course, we'll build you up and we'll put you into a career path with a dealership, and you now don't even need to do the marketing and chase the work. You can now be contracted.
Wow.
You can now be contracted and get a partnership with the Dent Academy and get guaranteed work through that pathway with CMT scan, which is that's where we see the exciting part in relation to this, because it's a whole new career path. And now we've got economy of scale when you start bringing the technology into it, that you can guarantee people's success with our training.
And this is the beauty. If I'm a dealership or if I'm a used car trader, auction house, rent-a-car company, I can reach out to the Dent Academy because I know that the techs that are going to be coming out referred by you have gone through that formalised training, as opposed to someone who's doing some dent repairs that may not have had formal training.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, it's hard to know the capability of a technician out in the, let's say, the wild, you say, because most 80% of the technicians out there are predominantly taught through the backyard with no formal structure or technique or curriculum. They're just given a tool, given a light, put a dent in there and just go forth, and let's hope you see how you go and just learn from there and go work back from your mistakes rather than mapping out the success path. So those people are generally a little bit of a wild card, but when you go through the Dent Academy and you've been taught from the ground zero up, we can guarantee a good, perfect finish and a guarantee time frame or efficiency around that repair.
And the reassurance is there because you've also got the comfort in knowing that the tech, if they come up against a difficult repair, have got access to yourselves for technical backup, versus the backyard trained tech is basically their trial and error.
Yeah. Like you could have a car with the exact same dent. You could send it to 3 different technicians. You might get one technician say, oh, that's not even repairable. You get one technician that does it in half an hour, and the other technician might do it, but he might take 2 to 3 hours. That's like that. You experience that every day when you're dealing with PDR technicians in the industry.
John, coming back to CMT then,
Yeah.
the CMT scanner could probably tell you which are repairable and which aren't. So having both technologies, you're having the CMT scanning and saying, well, these should all be repairable except these two. You might have to do something different on that. So that covers both areas.
Yeah, like we train into the scanner and we put parameters around it. So we know which parts of the car that become high risk. And we kind of evaluate it on 2 things. One is the turnaround time for the customer within that service period. So we don't want to repair to exceed 90 minutes. It's like our general rule of thumb. But we also don't want to approve or take on a repair that has a high risk of pulling paint or cracking paint in a difficult area of the car. So we kind of build that technology so we don't promote anything that becomes a risk. And we kind of control that within the technology, so we keep everything professional and streamlined, so we don't have any curveballs.
So those really difficult ones, you'll say, okay, we can't do that, but if you want that done, it's going to cost you more, and we're going to need the whole day for the car. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we call them like the out of scope. So we got 3 categories, 1, 2, and 3. 1 being the lowest, which is like 1 to 2 dents within a size. As that volume of dents exceed 2 dents, so it goes 3 to 4, or those 1 to 2 dents exceed a certain size, then it moves into category 2. And the same curriculum for the category 3. As that exceeds 3 to 4, and it goes above 4, or the size exceeds that for that category 2, it moves to category 3. Anything past the category 3, what we call is out of scope. But we give that option that we can either, I think, as we start playing in this field, especially with the dealerships, I want to create another piece after this so we can keep that revenue piece internally with the dealership, and we can offer a mobile service off the back of this. So you've got your Preem Express service through the service period, and then anything past a category 3, we can still offer it to the customer, but get it done at a later date, or leave your car and give them a couple of options. but that's what we call out of scope past the category 3. So it's there as an option. Being so new into this, and we're kind of moving, like there's not many people doing this in the dealership at all. So we kind of we're keeping it at category 1 to 3, but we foresee them moving into categories 4 and offering a different service and seeing how they can leverage that outside of that service period. That might exceed and expand into category 5 and 6 potentially.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's terrific.
John, thanks very much. To me, it's been a fascinating discussion. I've learned a huge amount today, so thank you for sharing your knowledge and information.
No, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been good to be on the podcast.
No, it's fascinating. And as an old school break the paint repairer, I love this technology. I think it's very clever. Very clever. And I've often wondered how it works, because we've had, John and I back in our automotive days, we had the big hail event. Geez, I probably think what year it was, 2014, 2015, where all those cars were damaged in New South Wales. We had, I think, 1,000 cars just of our own that needed to be dent repaired, and it took months because I think Renault had 1,000, but Nissan had 3,000 in that one compound that needed to be repaired, and it was an interesting task to get it all done.
Yeah, you would have had people flying in from all over the world to fill the rig. The funny thing is, I still talk to people even today. They go, "What do you do?" And you go, "Oh, PDR." And they go, "What's PDR?" So it's there's so many people in the world today that don't even know what PDR is. It's wild.
I just think it's incredible technology that you can push a dent out and it goes back to its original shape.
For a technician, because I'm a technician myself, obviously don't do it that much anymore. I still get a kick out of when I I get a car come in and it looks like a golf ball. I'm really efficient and really, really good at doing this as a craft. So I look at it and I still can get a kick out of it. And within less than a day, I can have that car done and it looks immaculate. It's ready for the showroom. There's a feeling through that process that it's rewarding. It's like managing getting a full respray, arriving in the morning and getting it out that afternoon, and it's a full respray and looks brand new and all put back together. Obviously, it's not possible, but you get that outcome with PDR, which is pretty cool.
John, a question for me around legislation. I think in some states, I could be wrong, that you have to declare that the car's been hail damaged.
No, you are correct, John. New South Wales.
Do you still have to do that once you've done the repair? Because the paint hasn't been damaged. You've brought it back to how it was.
Yeah. So you're talking about for new cars, or you mean for insurance and claims?
For new cars, it used to be that they had to be declared. You had to declare if it was a hail damaged vehicle.
Yeah, you have to declare, and I think sometimes with the whole warranty thing, it's still under warranty, but you don't have the paint and panel under warranty. I think what the manufacturers deem as when it's got hail damage, they don't kind of standard. I think obviously as the industry matures and the technology and the people's things start getting endorsed in relation to with the correct training, that might change. But for new cars, hail damage, and it's all gone through the claim and recorded, it's generally waived with the warranty of the panel and paint. But yeah, I think it's definitely recorded, all documented. Even in the manufacturer, we did a project with GM. From what they were telling me, they provide all their dealers, say, hey, this is your car's been hail damaged. This is the printout of how much damage or the cost that was done on it. And it's all being done and certified and delivered to their dealer network with that notification.
Thank you for listening. Hopefully you got as much out of today's episode as we did. It's an amazing technology and it's something that can save a lot of time and money.
Thanks for watching. We'll speak to you again next week.